politics and economics are downstream of culture. And the first thing you need to change is the way we, the citizens of West Bengal, perceive ourselves has to change. For far too long, our self-image was Bangalira ব্যবসা করতে পারে না. In fact, even worse, Bangalira ব্যবসা করতে চায় না. Now, for 50 years, this is kind of our self-image, and oddly, it stands at odds with thousands of years of Bengali history, which is all about doing business and trade. So if you just look at the map, and you can look at the riverine and seacoast geography, it will come as no surprise that for almost all of Bengal's history, it provided India with its largest ports. So you all know about the Magadhan Empire and the Gupta Empire. Well, their biggest port was Tamralipti. Before that, in the Iron Age, it was Chandraketugarh. These were not just the biggest ports of India, they were among the biggest ports in the world. Later on, Shadgaon, Hooghly, Europeans also came here. They built their settlements along not far from here. Chandanagar, Srirampur, and of course, Calcutta, now Kolkata. Most of you know the story that Kolkata was built on 3 villages. Now you may be under some impression that these were agricultural villages, but they weren't. They were actually weaver villages. The name Shutanoti literally means a hub of trade for shuto, that is yarn. It was actually a textile and yarn market. In fact, Borobajar and that general area still happens to be business. So you're literally sitting on thousands of years of this history, and this history is seeped into even our surnames. In this room, there will be people with surnames like Banik, Boshak, Seal. These are all merchant surnames of those who crossed the oceans in their boats to faraway places like Indonesia and Malaysia and Sri Lanka. You have surnames like Kormokar, which actually is the surnames of those from the metalworking artisan guilds. You all know the very famous Gujarati surname of business surname Shah. Well, we have an exact equivalent which is very common in Bengal, Shah. It's the exact same surname. Next door in Odisha, you have the surname Shahu. They're all descendants of those who were doing long-distance merchant trade. And it's there in all our folklore. Char Saudagar's legend is all about merchant trade. How can they say, Bangali ka ব্যবসা করতে জানে না? And this is not some ancient. This was true within living memory. Some of India's biggest businesses were built in and around Kolkata, for example. Of course, it attracted merchants from around the country and around the world, the Marwadis, the Gujaratis, Armenians, and many other communities. But the Bengalis themselves were very well known for doing business. Raja Rammohan Roy was, after all, a banker. Dwarkanath Tagore made his wealth not through extracting on agriculture, but through doing business. He was into banking, but very notoriously or famously an opium trader. So this was even true 100 years ago. After the Swadeshi movement and the first partition of Bengal in 1905, large numbers of Bengali entrepreneurs entered into modern industries. This led to the creation of major business houses which were among the largest in the country and some of the largest in Asia. You have the direct descendants of them on this stage. Dr. Shaban Dasgupta's grandfather created Calcutta Chemicals. My own great-great-grandfather, Mohini Mohan Chakravarti, created Mohini Mills, which at the time of independence was Asia's largest tradition of business and entrepreneurship, risk-taking that is a part of our blood. So let not the last 50 years of history distract you from this much longer tradition. It's doing business is in our blood. This is what we do as Bengalis. Having said that, let us now come to the present. What do we need to do for that? West Bengal owes it to India to rebalance a major imbalance that exists in India as a whole. Many people talk about the north-south divide, but in fact the real divide in India, and I've said this for several years now, is actually an east-west divide. The eastern half of India is distinctly poorer than the western half of India. In fact, it is such a powerful effect that it even shows through in large states. The western part of Maharashtra is richer than the eastern part of Maharashtra. The western part of UP is richer than the eastern part of UP. The western part of Madhya Pradesh is richer than the eastern part of Madhya Pradesh. Two identically in states in terms of linguistics, which is Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, then Andhra Pradesh. So we need to rebalance this. But this was always not the case. In the 1960s, the average per capita income of West Bengal was 27% higher than the national average. Today, it is 20% below. In fact, West Bengal's per capita income is now lower than that of Odisha, which was traditionally considered a very poor state. And they have done very well in recent years, but even they continue to be well below national average. So we need to really do something about getting our act together, getting Eastern India going again. Let me assure you that this is something that the Honorable Prime Minister thinks a great deal about. For quite some time, northeast of India was one of our more neglected parts of India. And you may have noticed in the last decade or so, northeast of India has seen a great deal of emphasis, and it has worked. I mean, who would think like that a state like, say, Assam would be considered a place where high-tech industries would want to relocate, or that Agartala of all places would have one of the best airports in this country? Unimaginable. Now that transformation now has to happen in Eastern India, starting with West Bengal. I'm specifically mentioning here Kolkata. Of course, a lot needs to be done about North Bengal, Jungle Mahal, and rural Bengal. But I'm going to focus here a little bit upon Kolkata, partly because I am in Kolkata and in the interest of time. But I feel specifically strongly about Kolkata, but because in the end, rapid economic growth is ultimately driven by some urban hub. It is the excess surplus that is generated by that urban hub that allows then and reinvested into other to grow. So in southern India, you have the triangle of Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai that drives this growth. Much of what the rest of the south of India benefits is from the sort of second order effects of this growth in this triangle. Western India has Pune, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, that triangle. Northern India now has the Delhi NCR, which is now spread all the way through Chandigarh on one side, Noida on one side, and of course now creeping towards Jaipur on the third. We need a major hub in Eastern India. And by sheer size and history, it has got to be Kolkata. Networked, of course, through Bhubaneswar, Ranchi, Guwahati, and Patna. But because it is simply so much larger than everybody else, this is perhaps the place that really needs to fire. And not to do it is to let the country down. So we need Kolkata to fire. Firing it up needs to do many things, and it's a long list. But let me give a few guiding principles. First of all, if you want a city to rapidly grow, do remember, cities are successful because of concentration, not because of declustering. It is very tempting all the time to say, oh, let us decongest the city. I'm afraid that misses the point about why cities are successful. Even in the West, let's say United States, vast spaces of emptiness, and yet their most economically successful city is New York. You couldn't imagine a more densely packed urban hub than Manhattan. Even on the West Coast, it's tiny areas like the area around the Bay Area, around San Francisco or Los Angeles. So it is urban concentration that generates this, and making this urban concentration work is what generates these huge growth. Even in this country, look at Mumbai. You can keep eternally spreading out, but ultimately, what has Mumbai done? It has gone for urban density with the coastal road, with the metro system, with opening up Dharavi and trying to redevelop it. It's all about making concentration work. So when we look at Kolkata, we've got to make concentration work, not spread it out eternally outward. That is inefficient and misses the point about high growth being generated. Now, yes, high growth generates its own problems, as Bangalore is finding out. But then you deal with the problems of success, but after you're successful. So, when it comes to Kolkata, the first place to start is by unlocking the huge amount of derelict industrial land that is lying around. Yes. Yes. There is a huge amount. We can always get moving. But first of all, it unnecessarily encroaches upon productive agricultural land, which, by the way, Bengal, because of its geography, has very good agricultural land, which gives you 3 crops. So why encroach upon it? But more importantly, we have chunks of derelict industrial land from industries that shut down over the last half a century. This land needs to be redeployed. In many cases, they already have decent pre-built infrastructure, or at least rights of way. And it is this concentration of this that feeding into each other that generates growth. Whether it is the derelict port lands along the Hooghly, or the lands that are there with all kinds of industries, the Hindustan Motors, Dunlop, NTPC, I can give a long list. I'm sure there are all manners of disputes and other things relating to each one of this, but you've got to fix this. Because if we don't, and just try to build it in an ever-expanding way, we will miss the great opportunity of bringing Kolkata back as a city, and it has to be done by inbuilding. Now, I've spent a fair amount of time here now talking about Kolkata. I understand there are other things that we need to do about other parts of West Bengal. That is a debate and discussion for another day. But for now, let me say, we need to bring Viksit Bharat, Viksit Bengal, and Viksit Kolkata. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very interesting observation. You always have a unique and a very innovative way of looking at things, which are very practical and very positive. Putting Calcutta in its historical context and yet charting out the way forward is something which you have done very well. Urban-centric development and reducing the gap between Purva and Paschim Bharat, not North-South divide. I know you had mentioned this earlier as well. Thank you very much, sir, for delivering your thematic address this morning. We conclude this session, but before the conclusion, may I request the President of the Chamber to kindly present mementos to all the distinguished people seated here. And I understand Mr. Jointa Roy of Peerless would also like to say thank you in his own way.